the use of data and analytics, you'll see becoming much, much larger. So, the digital adoption will continue. AI and data and analytics will play a much, much important role. Yeah, so I think that's what 2025 would look like.
Visionaries, innovators, agenda setters, all with their finger on the pulse of tomorrow's tech. One platform bringing them all together. Slated for Tomorrow, a podcast series presented by Zensar. In today's episode, a conversation with Chaitanya Rajebahadur of Zensar. Chai, thank you so much for speaking with us here on the Slated for Tomorrow video podcast series, where we're speaking with experts like you to really understand what's happening on the big picture. And you definitely have your pulse in terms of what's going on in Europe, what's happening in the BFSI space. You wear many, many hats. I'm going to discuss all of that with you in just a moment. But I understand you grew up in Africa? That must have been fascinating.
Yeah, so first of all, Sunanda, delighted to be here for Slated for Tomorrow. Thank you very much for inviting me for this wonderful series which you have started. Yes, I did grow up in Africa. 8 years of my life from my childhood till I entered college. I was in a small little town called Chipata in a place called Zambia. My father used to work for the Commonwealth Hospitals, and he was serving a large Eastern Province hospital. So I grew up there, my childhood, very fond memories, very nice people, very humble people, and an experience I remember, I'm sure, for my lifetime.
Good to have you here, and I want to talk about the fact that you grew up in Africa, of course, but you lived all over the world. 5 countries and counting. You've traveled, I think, pretty much to every continent and country, both on work and otherwise. Is it necessary to be a global citizen of sorts, especially for the kind of role that you have, where at Zensar you have employees who are all global citizens?
To be honest, I'm fortunate. I had that experience. I lived in Singapore. I've lived and worked in Australia. Lived and worked in Switzerland. Now I'm based in the UK, and UK is actually home away from home for me. I've traveled extensively in Europe, traveled extensively in the US. I think the one thing that it gives you is you understand people, you understand cultures, you understand what works in a country, what doesn't work in a country. If you thought Europe is one, every little city in every European country is also different. They have their rivalries on beer or football. So people who get, in the job or, workplace, if they get an opportunity to travel, learn, I think it's a phenomenal experience, and it will help in their careers tremendously.
Your official designation, of course, is the head of Europe for Zensar. But you wear many hats. You're the CEO, you're the CTO, you're the CIO, the CHRO. Talk to us about that.
It's going to be 10 years for me in Zensar in February next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so my official title is an Executive Vice President and the Head of Europe. Basically, I'm responsible for business development, marketing, HR, finance, all the elements which help us grow the business and make our employees happy. In addition to that, I'm pretty passionate about diversity and inclusion as an area. So I had that charter for Zensar globally as well. And we're making steady progress in that area. Sometimes my bosses think I have a lot of time, so they do give me additional roles and responsibilities. So I was running the manufacturing and consumer services business for about 9 months till we hired a new leader to look after that recently. I have really enjoyed every year of the last 10 years of playing the role of Head of Europe. We had a very humble beginning. To becoming a force to be recognized in the UK marketplace is very special. Every year has been full of challenges. Every year has been full of excitement. Other than 1 year, we've grown all the 10 years that I've been here in Zensar. So I take a lot of pride in that about the team.
I want to read out some data from the IMF at this point and really talk about Europe and how the economy is changing and growing. First off, when we say Europe, the markets when it comes to the adoption of technology, it's not really homogeneous. So how are you approaching technology when you're someone who's looking at Europe? You're responsible for tech and tech adoption. How do you approach that when each market is so different?
Yes, every country in Europe would have their nuances. Their nuances in terms of regulations and nuances to their go-to-market and nuances in terms of their internal policies, in terms of governmental policies. But the one thing which is common across Europe or across the world today is how do you enter a market faster? How do you launch new products faster? How do you make your clients' journey better? How do you make your clients more happy? Now, all these elements are basically tied to how do you approach a particular market or a product. And I think we are in that space. We have a story which is experience-led everything. So we look at a lens of experience in everything that we do. And that's a common area which we're seeing. I mean, we acquired a wonderful business called Foolproof on the day of Brexit, actually, which helps us in the creative element of, when we design customer journeys or we design helping in new products. So that's an area which is really growing for us. And that's one of our focus areas. So that's helping us deliver growth. Otherwise, in Europe, a lot of the elections have happened. A lot of the budgets were held back because of elections. Now all of that is done and dusted. And organizations are looking at cloud and artificial intelligence. And again, these are common themes. Basically, Zensar, we're focused on some of the common themes, and that's helping us grow in Europe.
I want to talk about some IMF data, and I'm sure you've seen this. IMF, not too long ago, not painting a very rosy picture when it comes to the growth of the European economy, particularly its largest economy, Germany, going to continue to struggle in the mid to short term. And that's perhaps true of the rest of the region as well. So looking at that market, are you worried? Going into 2025, what sort of challenges do you perhaps see?
Not really, because we are engaged in areas where a lot of these companies want to grow. And they have enough budget to help them with their growth initiatives. At a macro level, if the inflation really goes up across the countries, if the cost of everyday living really goes up, monetary policies start changing, then we will start seeing impact on our business. But right now, we're not seeing an impact. Also, some economies have started showing growth, even though it's limited. Some of the major countries are on the track of showing growth. So I'm not too worried.
If you could for a moment also put on your CTO hat and talk about the 2030 digital decade of Europe and the EU, of course. The EU says it's pursuing a human-centric, sustainable vision. How do we ensure that technology and digital become inclusive and sustainable in the long run?
If you look at diversity and inclusion as a subject, one is the policies of a company that they want to adopt. And generally I'm seeing majority of the companies in Europe are very passionate about diversity and inclusion, and that field is changing rapidly in a positive way. How do you apply digital to that is, whatever are your policies, how do you make it more experience friendly for the employees so that they are able to understand those things, and everything that you build across your online channels, needs to have the diversity and inclusion element of it. Lots of surveys, lots of interaction, feedback, and all of those can be done in a digital manner. So, digital plays an important role in every aspect of policies that you want to adopt in an organization, including diversity and inclusion.
Okay, and that's something that's close to your heart. I know diversity and inclusion. I'll come back and talk about that. Speaking of the EU, it has also said that going forward, digitally skilled population and highly skilled digital professionals, that's going to be important. Secure and sustainable digital infrastructure is going to be important. Digital transformation of businesses is going to be important, and digitalization of public services. I want to just go into each of these aspects very briefly. And, speaking of a skilled population, how do you skill in a technology or a service or an area which is changing as we speak, because you don't perhaps know the use cases or the how that technology is perhaps going to get applied. How are you training the workforce in that?
Actually, it's got to do with government policies. And if you see across Europe...
Got to do or not to do?
It has got to do.
Got to do with
government policies, because governments in Europe control school and curriculum in schools.
Okay.
It's in Europe, it's mostly state funded in most of the countries. So one is curriculum, and you'll see two things. One is the digital literacy is becoming a must in all the schools, and STEM or science technology is for women is becoming a must. But if you see at I'm not sure what you call it's Gen X or Gen Z.
I'm also confused. Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
confused on that. But they're naturally digitally savvy. You will see the trend.
They call digital natives, essentially.
They're digital natives.
Yeah.
So for them to become stronger from digitally native is a lot more easier journey than maybe 2 decades ago, where it took me a long time to bank digitally, because I didn't come from that era. So I think it's going to be digital adoption with the population is not going to be too big a challenge.
The reason I just went back to that point on saying the government has to. What's the role of private industry, right? Like Zensar, for instance, there are training programs. The industry trade body here in India places a lot of emphasis on skilling. But is there a simple answer to whether it's a PPP model, it's only government, it's only the responsibility of private industry? Where does that lie?
I think it's a combination of both. So as you rightly mentioned, Zensar does a lot of digital literacy trainings for society which is not as privileged as some. And I believe a lot of corporates must be doing that. So it's a combination of government, private enterprise, large companies like Microsoft, which are also donating across the world. We work a lot with the UN. They have a lot of digital literacy charter. So technology is being used for real life use cases for the betterment of human life.
I was reading a previous interview of yours where you were speaking about going 100% digital. Is that possible, and is it desirable? Everything becomes basically completely faceless, no human interaction. Whether in Europe or in India, is that desirable for us?
So actually, that's a statement which I used to make to a lot of my clients, that Zensar, which is a 100-year-old firm, became a 100% living digital firm, which basically means all your internal corporate functions and processes are digitized. And a lot of companies do that. Can it be faceless without human interaction? I still think we're human beings. We need interaction, and we will need human interface and touch points. 100% or a lot of your process being heavily digitized makes your organization a lot more efficient. And that's an advantage that organizations have, and that's why they'll go after it. But also, I was talking to a client. They spent like 50 million pounds on a sales platform, but none of the salespeople were using that because they didn't know how to use the tool. So whatever digitization you do internally in a company, it needs to have a lens of experience of the users, so that the tool can be used a lot more effectively. So digitization for better efficiency, yes, but after digitization, better adoption of whatever you build is also equally important, and experience plays an important role in that.
So the second pillar of the EU's 2030 digital decade is secure, sustainable digital infrastructure. What areas should investments start in, and start in quickly, if you want to ensure that you're meeting those targets? As an economy, where should our investments be going?
I think artificial intelligence is one of the kind of focus areas. People are talking about it, but not a lot of investments are not happening in that space. Security and a secure environment. We are hearing of a lot of cyber attacks on lots of large corporates. I think having a secure...
It's rather low in the BFSI space from data that I've been seeing, right?
It is across. So these cyber attacks are happening across. So for organizations, a very, very secure infrastructure is extremely important. A lot of companies are investing a lot of time and efforts in doing that. Even Zensar provides services in that space.
The third pillar is digital transformation of businesses. And I want to speak about this from a business opportunity perspective for small businesses that are looking at this landscape that's unfolding, right? That's changing. Larger businesses adopting technology, becoming more digital agile. What are those opportunities looking forward into 2025? If you could do some crystal ball gazing and saying, here are the 2 or 3 industries or the areas that I feel are going to see maximum opportunities, what would those be?
First of all, the digital adoption, whether it is within their firms or externally in terms of the touch point with their customers, will continue. It's going to take, it's just a couple of years from now. So that's not going to stop. What I think would play a very important role is using AI for a competitive advantage. Firms are hesitant to use AI at the moment. They're just discussing about AI. But firms who can make a success of it will have certainly a lot of competitive, advantage. And once you have AI, the use of data and analytics, you'll see becoming much, much larger. So, the digital adoption will continue. AI and data and analytics will play a much, much important role. Yeah, so I think that's what 2025 would look like.
When we were speaking earlier about the many hats that you're wearing, it's not an official hat in that sense. It's not an official designation or a title. But I know you are fully invested in this, and that is as a champion when it comes to equal rights, inclusivity. Till not too long ago, you were the official global lead for DI. And the reason that I really bring it up is to talk about the BFSI space. Data showing that only 9.7% of about 181 financial services organizations surveyed were female CEOs. And this we're talking about in the UK and in Europe, but it's a similar picture pretty much anywhere in the world. How's that going to change? Will it change quickly?
Very interesting you asked me this question, because I'm here in India to host a CEO of a bank in the UK. And she was narrating a story that not very far ago, 1996, she did a really good job, and she asked her boss for a bonus. The boss said, you've done a really good job, but I can't give you a bonus. And she asked why. And he said, because I want to give it to the men. And she asked why the men, because she said, men have wives and families. She said, I have a husband and family. Men have to, look after whatever their parents. She said, when I have parents. Then he said, no, because both of you are working, so husband and wife, but the men deserve it more. So it's not far ago that this attitude was there, 96. And I was amazed at the story. And she said she was thinking whether she should report it to HR. But her manager resigned, so she didn't report to the HR, and eventually she became a CEO. So I asked her the same question yesterday, that, how should more women become CEOs? So one, of course, is hard work. That's a given. Her thing is anybody who's focused enough, who, challenges the ecosystem, and, who continuously, keeps on getting feedback from peers, superiors, will eventually make it happen. That is a personal development she talked about. At people who are hiring for these roles, boards, they're changing their mindsets as well, because they see the value that women leadership can bring into a bank. So I asked her a question, would 9.3 become 20, 30 in the next few years' time? She says it will increase definitely. It's certainly not the way it was 2 decades ago. I'm happy that I'm a dad of 2 daughters right now, because I think the opportunities for women are a lot higher. Perceptions are changing, people are changing, and diversity and inclusion across all areas, including, women in senior roles, is changing. So it's a change in society, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot more increase across boards or CEOs. It's not just I'm saying I'm being hopeful, but I think that change will evolve.
I want to talk about the use of tech in the BFSI space. In India, it's highly regulated. I'm sure it's similar in the UK. So how do you ensure seamless integration and transformation of the BFSI space where tech is concerned?
I think regulation is part of life in BFSI. Banks, financial services, insurance, which is also an opportunity for tech companies like us, because any regulation is, heavily driven by a lot of tech work that happens. The thing is, these regulatory requirements are given on a certain date and a time, which banks and insurers have to comply to. It's pretty much business as usual for most of these banks, and so there's a routine, there's a schedule, and people have to adapt to it. And technology plays a very important role in meeting those regulatory requirements. And we are very much right in the middle of providing consulting in that space from a technology perspective.
So we've been talking all things business. I want to end today's interview by tapping into Chai, the person. You travel so much, when you're not at work, when you're not thinking work, when you're not breathing work, what do you do?
I'm actually quite a boring person that way. For me, it's work and family and my dog. So these are the three things.
You've got your priorities right then.
So these are pretty much the things that I do. Whatever time I get, I like to spend it with the family. And I love my work as well. So I have to find other. I used to play tennis a lot. I do my. I'm quite conscious of an exercise routine. So I do try to exercise every day, some form of fashion. And as I said, walking the dog alone also takes quite a bit of time. So yeah, that's pretty much me. Not much into movies and things like that. The latest thing that I love to do is Audible, because I have reading glasses and I hate to read a book with wearing a reading glass on. So Audible is a solution for me.
What are you listening to at the moment?
For me, I love Jeffrey Archer.
Okay.
Every single book of Jeffrey Archer I've read once and I've read twice, and it still doesn't bore me. So yeah, Jeffrey Archer is my, I just love the way he articulates his, stories. And since I live in the UK, it relates quite a bit for me.
So if we were to look at your phone as someone who's in the tech space, what's that one app or, technology that you can't do without?
I like Instagram.
You're very active on social media.
I like Instagram on the social side, and I'm big on, I love LinkedIn.
Okay.
So before I go for any meeting, I will look at the profile of the person I'm meeting. I'll look at the individual's interest. I'll look at people, his or her peers, his or her team. I look at what they write about the job. So I go, today it's so easy to go for a meeting. Through LinkedIn, you can get pretty much 80% of the problem statement the person you're trying to meet at through all this,
So we have a fair sense of your taste in books and what your digital footprint perhaps looks like. Any movies that have stayed with you that you've watched?
I like all the mafia movies.
Okay.
I love all the Pablo Escobars, and I love all of those. I like all
Personally inspiring?
Not really personally, but I like all the Godfather. I can watch them again and again. I like all sales-led kind of things. So Glenn Ross is a Bible for salespeople.
Okay.
So I like to watch those kind of movies, which my family hates. So those are the movies I like.
Chai, so wonderful talking to you.
Thank you
so much for really decoding a lot of the news that we're seeing, and also for letting us into your personal life.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sunanda.